Hello again and welcome back to Planet 40k. We've got another bite-sized review for you today and we're going to be talking about the Lokhust destroyers from the Necron Codex. So guys, if you haven't already, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below as we're bringing you every single unit within the Necron Codex. Just a little bit of a refresher just to remind us exactly what all these units and abilities can do. So the Lokhust destroyer is one of the heavy support options. If you were to purchase them in the UK, it'll be £16. Now that will get you just one single Lokhust destroyer, but if you were to pay £32.50, you get a box of 3 of them. Definitely worth doing that. Now if you're in the USA, to get a single one, $27, and to get that same box of 3, it's $55. So definitely worth buying the box of 3 as opposed to 1. It's almost like buy 2, get 1 free, isn't it? So as for unit size, you can take a total of 6 Lokhust destroyers, and optionally you can add a Lokhust heavy destroyer into this same unit. Now weirdly, when you're adding a heavy destroyer within this unit, it's not going to cost you 50 points, it's only going to cost you 45. So even though it's a 5-point savings, it's still something, I guess, right? So they're an infantry unit, they've got the core keyword, they've got the fly keyword, and of course they're a destroyer cult unit. They've got a movement of 8 inches, which I quite like because one of their abilities allows them to move and then fire their heavy weapons. We'll get onto their heavy weapons in a moment, but being able to move and fire heavy without any penalties, and the fly keyword on top of that, gives them a little bit more flexibility in terms of their movement. You can get in and out of terrain, you can get a better line of sight on enemy models, and things like that. Other stats of note, of course, they're toughness 5 and they've got 3 wounds, whereas the Lokhust heavy destroyers, they've got 4 wounds. So sometimes you can actually take some wounds on the actual Lokhust heavy destroyer first. Okay, you will lose that Lokhust heavy destroyer as the first model to go, but if it's say a 3 damage weapon, sometimes it is worth just putting it on the Lokhust heavy destroyer just to keep all models actually alive. But I do quite like the idea of actually hiding one of your Lokhust heavy destroyers within a unit. Now as they're a destroyer cult unit, they've got the hardwired for destruction ability, so they're re-rolling hit rolls of a 1. That's really nice when they naturally already hit on 3s. Potentially can go up to 2s, we'll talk about that in the synergy section later. But yeah, hit on 3s, re-rolling 1s, pretty decent. Now the weapons that all of these guys are going to be taking is the Gorse Cannons. These are heavy 3, strength 6, minus 3 AP, and the damage is a D3. So that's great against 2 different kind of enemy units. First of all, it's good against toughness 3 models, because you're wounding them on 2s, but it's also good against models that have got 2 wounds, such as Space Marines for example. I always use them as our basic example, don't I? It's good against those because they've got 2 wounds, and damage D3. If you've got a full unit of 6 of these with 3 shots each, that's 18 shots at strength 6, minus 3 AP, D3 damage. That's not too bad. Now as for the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer, there are 2 options. We've kind of already done a video about these. Hopefully I'll remember to put a link in the top corner for you now, but if I have forgot to do that, just go into the playlist and you'll find their mini bite-sized review. Now as for stratagems of note, I've got 3 to talk about today. The first one is the Extermination Protocols. Now it is 2 command points, a little bit pricey, but it allows you to reroll all your rune rolls. Not so useful when you've got say 3 Lokhust Heavy Destroyers with the Gorse Destructors, but it is pretty decent when you've got 6 Lokhust Destroyers with the Gorse Cannons with 18 shots, re-rolling wounds, could be worth it. Next we've got the Disintegration Capacitor stratagem for a command point. Because they're Gorse weapons, any unmodified hit roll of a 6 automatically wounds a target. Now with the 18 shots for a full unit, on average you're going to get around 3 6s, so it's probably not worth it. I wouldn't use it on this squad. And the final one, Solar Pulse, just to remove light cover if enemy units are within cover. Dynasty wise, you've got the Mephrit Dynasty of course, plus 3 inches, that makes 27 inches for their Gorse Cannons. And you can actually make use of that Talent for Annihilation stratagem for another command point, where unmodified wound rolls of 6 inflict a mortal wound. Again, you're probably not going to get that many with this. This stratagem is probably better served on Necron Warriors, Tomb Blades and things like that. Next we've got the Nihilak Dynasty with objectives secured. Now they may possibly not actually need objectives secured because they're likely going to be staying back in your back lines. Maybe going to the mid-ground at a push. But the reason to take the Nihilak Dynasty for the Lokhust Destroyers is for the stratagem Reclaim a Lost Empire. This allows a Nihilak infantry unit to do an action while still firing. Now alternatively you could just use the command protocol of Sunstorm. That will also have the exact same benefits. But yeah, if you didn't want to use that protocol and you are using the Nihilak Dynasty, you've got the option there with the stratagem. Then the last out of the 6 generic option, I want to talk about the Zerikan Dynasty. For that reroll to the win roll, just a single one per unit. But you could save it for the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer that is hidden within the unit. It may be useful for him. Now as for some of the custom codes, immovable phalanx may be an option. Damage 1 weapons give you up to 2+ armor save on your Lokhust Destroyers. That's going to keep them alive a little bit longer. Now in fact in order to use that one you do need to remain stationary, so it is also going to restrict their movement as well. So just be careful with that one because you do sometimes need to move and you can move those heavy weapons of course. Now these guys, in my opinion, are fantastic in the new Annihilation Legion Army of Renown that the Necrons have got. We spoke about it in the Army of Renown video that we done recently, and the way to utilise these guys is to basically split fire all the models within that unit. And all they need to do is take away a single enemy model from a unit. So if there's 6 of your guys and there's 6 units within range, try to pick off one model from every one of those other 6 units, and then you're going to unlock the Annihilation Legion's actual ability where it's a +1 to the hit rolls because the unit isn't at full strength. So that means your Scorpic Destroyers can get in there, they're going to have a +1 to hit, maybe it's your Ophidian Destroyers, and likewise other units and even other Lokhust Destroyer units within your actual list. Also, while we're talking about the Annihilation Legion, there is a +1 to damage stratagem, so that'll be D3 +1 damage, so you're guaranteed at least 2 damage if you roll poorly. Potentially get 4 damage per shot, that could be actually really good. So as for unit synergy, due to the lack of invuln saves that these guys have, maybe a Chronomancer could help with that 5+ invulnerable save. Not so much for the reroll to the charge roll, leave that for the melee units, but a 5+ invuln because we do kind of lack in the invuln department, don't we, for the Necrons. Option number 2 is a Technomancer to be reanimating a lost model in the unit, and if you're taking the Canoptic Cloak, you can also be healing a model D3 lost wounds. Other synergy includes the Scorpic Lord or maybe the Lokhust Lord to give them rerolls of 1 to their wound rolls, and they're also going to provide a decent enough melee defense because your Lokhust Destroyers are not going to want to have a fist fight, so they need some sort of defense from that. A Lokhust Lord with a War Scythe or a Scorpic Lord with his Hyperphase Harvester, for example, they could be a little bit of a defense for your guys. Then of course any Overlord type of model or the Silent King, they're going to be given that My Will Be Done ability because they're core, but the Silent King in particular gives them rerolls to pretty much everything, don't he? One thing to not take though is the Necron Lord, because you're already rerolling 1s, so you do not need a Necron Lord, and likewise you do not need a Triarch Stalker with that targeting relay. You don't need it, you're already rerolling 1s. So in summary, I think these guys are an often overlooked unit. We tend to want those bigger and badder weapons within our heavy support selections, such as the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers, maybe even the Doomsday Ark and the Canoptic Doomstalker. But as far as killing elite models go, I think they're okay. Full unit of 6, spraying 18 strength 6 shots out, -3 AP, D3 damage. They're fairly quick, they're fairly tough, and the added bonus of being able to add one of those single Lokhust Heavy Destroyers. Now we did also mention in the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer video that there is the rule of 3, of course. You can only use the same datasheet 3 times as per the rules, so if you've got 3 Lokhust Heavy Destroyer units, that's your 3. However, because this is a Lokhust Destroyer unit and not Lokhust Heavy Destroyer unit, you could be getting some extra ones in, which is a little bit of a loophole to be getting extra models in that you shouldn't really be getting in. But let's get on to the Planet 40k rating today for the Lokhust Destroyers. I'm going to be going with the Planet 40k rating of 4 stars.